All right, hello, good afternoon. Welcome to this webinar, which we're going to be taking a look at the processes involved and everything surrounding dye sublimation, transfer printing onto rigid substrates. So we're going to be talking in specific about ChromaLuxe, which we'll explain a little bit more about in a moment, but basically about transfer sublimating printing into rigid substrates. Hopefully you guys can hear me okay. If you could just type into the chat box there and just let us know that you can hear okay, that's great. Hopefully the mics are working okay. I've got a bit of a cold today, so forgive me if I sound a bit bunged up. My name's Joe. I look after the Academy and the Creative Centre here at Roland DG UK. I'm joined by
Jeroen Kooij, and I'm Business Development Manager for Roland DG, specialized on media.
Jeroen Kooij, there you go. I can't say it very well, but in fact, Jeroen's joined us, flown over from Belgium because he looks after the media side of the development business. And so this part of this project has been sort of driven by Jeroen.
Okay.
Just put it down and just
okay.
Talk loudly.
Yeah, I have a real soft voice. I'm sorry. Yeah, can you hear me? I don't know, I'm talking like this.
Hopefully that will be okay.
Yeah.
So let's move that down a little bit on you. There you go. As the webinar's live, this is always a bit interesting at the beginning. We're just getting things started and hoping that you all the technology is working and you can hear us okay. But as it is a live webinar, feel free to ask questions in the chat box that you guys should have found already in the system. You can ask us questions throughout the webinar, or you can save them for the end. As they come up, Ollie's over here sort of running the webinar, so he'll be able to ask us questions throughout the session. But what we're going to do is kind of talk through a bit of an introduction about what is sort of ChromaLuxe, what is Unisub, what is sublimation printing, what are the applications. We're going to do a bit of a demonstration, so we'll do a live demonstration of how the process works and what that would look like. We're going to talk through the different applications and things that you can create with this technology, some of the benefits and advantages to it, and then we'll have a bit of a question and answer session at the end in case there's anything that we missed out. So as you can see on the table here, we've got a bunch of different bits and bobs laid out. We've got some things behind us as well. We've got the Texart RT640 over here, which we've been using to do our prints for this demonstration. And we've got a heat press at the back here as well, which are all key elements in this process. But first of all, Jeroen, if you could give us a little introduction as to, I guess, what is ChromaLuxe?
Okay. ChromaLuxe is actually the top-level brand of a company called Universal Woods. Universal Woods, they started about 20 years ago creating polyester-coated panels. They are specialized in this, and they are actually the world leader in production of these panels. And as a result, you will get really high-quality, vibrant colors on various types of media. So they make this coating on metal panels, on aluminum panels, on hardboard, PVC, everything.
Interesting. Okay, so yeah, so and there's different brands within Universal Woods, the parent company, but ChromaLuxe is the main brand, but there's another brand as well. Yeah.
So ChromaLuxe is really the top-level product, and it's also the product that they are best known for. Sometimes you have to go for a product that is a little bit more price-driven or doesn't have to last that long, and for that they have created the Unisub line. So it's the same type of media that they are coating, only the coating on the ChromaLuxe products is more high level.
Okay, perfect. So this is a brief explanation in case you guys aren't aware as to what sublimation is. Maybe it's a word that you've heard, or if you're familiar with the processes, obviously you'll know about this, but sometimes it has connotations that link back to textile, because that's one of the big applications for sublimation processes. However, there are lots of other things that you can do with sublimation printing. Sublimation actually refers to a process. So in our processes, what we'll do is we'll print on one of the Texart machines, okay, using a sublimation ink. And you print onto a carrier paper. So what that paper does, got a piece of paper here with a print on. This is a special paper that just holds the ink within the surface of the paper, and it's easy to release that ink. So what you would do is take your print, which is a mirror image, you then place that onto your item, or your fabric, or your aluminium plate, or your whatever it might be. In this case, we're talking about aluminium or steel or wood or whatever it might be. You place that onto the surface, and then you press it in a heat press. And what the ink does is it goes from being a solid straight to a gas, which is skipping the liquid phase. That's called sublimation. It's called dye-sublimation because it has colors in it. And so you're transferring the ink and the colors from the paper into the surface of the material. So if I pick up one of these panels, for example, this has been coated by in a ChromaLuxe coating, basically, and the coating is what takes the ink. So when the ink goes from being a solid straight to a gas and then back into a solid within the surface of the material, meaning that the ink is actually embedded in the top of the material, making it very durable, very long lasting, pretty much not bulletproof, but it's not gonna come out by cleaning and things like that as well, which we'll come back to in a bit. So that's what sublimation is. So it's not just for textiles. It's often used in textiles and things such as sports, fashion wear, interior decor and things. But today we're looking at rigid substrates, which is a whole nother branch of things that you can do in dye sublimation. You might have sort of heard of doing things like mugs or mouse mats with dye sublimation, but this is like a higher end process in which you can transfer very, very high end graphics, super vibrant graphics as well, into the surface of materials.
Yeah, so you have a real large color gamut, really strong colors, and instead of just selling a piece of signage, it's almost like selling a piece of art. So by going to the Mercedes car dealer, instead of saying that the exit is there, you can have a nice picture of a Mercedes against a black background, and then say that the exit is there, and with the same cost to you, he will pay 10 times or 50 times as much as he would do for a panel that was printed by UV or by applying aquasolvent printed vinyl. That's not all. It will also last much longer. So let's say if I would have the top level coating, so the ChromaLuxe coating, depending on how you would validate that, the indoor lifetime is 50 to 150 years. Sorry, you don't get that. You don't get it with UV or you don't get it with aquasolvent. If you would go for a more price-driven product like the Unisub products are, you can make the same panels and they will last indoor 5 to 10 years, which suits a lot of purposes really well.
We're still talking long applications.
Way longer than any other technique would give you. Yeah.
And that's not necessarily saying that's how long the product would last. That's just how long it's going to be sort of 100% for until it starts losing color maybe or down the line. So yeah, there's a whole bunch of different applications and benefits to using this process. And one of them is you probably can't see at the moment, but on the surface here we've got a tabletop that we're resting on here, and there's another one at the back here that I think Jeroen's going to pick up. So this is a sort of like 20-25 mil thick tabletop surface, and it's really durable, and it's also can be cleaned using just about any chemical because the ink is inside the surface of the material.
Yeah, so you can try cleaning this with bleach. You can stack tables on top of each other. It's so durable that you can do this every day. I wouldn't mind eating from this table without a plate. I don't mind eating at all.
Perfect. So that means that in terms of applications, you're not going to be limited by, as Jeroen said, maybe food environments or environments where you need to have a very clean surface, such as hospitals, for example.
Children daycare centers, an environment with food in the supermarket, a restaurant. So then you can combine like decoration, protection, art with a surface that is perfectly cleanable.
And so we've got like applications such as these big tables, but then there's lots of small things as well. You know, little photo display panels, frames, coasters.
Coasters, very, very popular. Yeah.
Some picture frames and things that you can see there. But am I right in saying there's a few hundred sort of different products?
There are 350 plus different objects available from the Unisub range alone. And unlike sublimating on textile, this is a finished product. So once it comes off the press and you take up the paper, your product is ready, it's finished. Yeah.
That's an interesting one as well. So we got that's a very durable piece.
Yeah. Actually, this is a flooring tile. You can see it like this, I hope. So it's also sublimated, has a ChromaLuxe coating, and with this you can dance the night away. Every night of the week for I don't know how many years. Try that with another technique. It won't work. Yeah.
And there's a few different finishes as well. So you probably won't be able to see on the webcam there in any detail, but we do have a few different finishes to the look of the top of it. So most of these panels that we've got here, if I take one of these for example, it starts off as a white background, and then you're pressing your color into the surface. Now this is some 6mm hardboard. There's a few other different things. We've got sort of MDF, we've got natural woods, we've got, as I said, aluminium or steel.
Yeah.
But normally they start off with a white background to make your colors really pop, but you can have ones that also have a metallic background, so the true sort of aluminium finish on the background. I think one of these ones is.
No, the other one. I hope.
Nope. All right, we've put that one down somewhere, not been able to find it, but there are different ones where they'll just have the metallic finish on it, so you won't have the white showing through. Same with the wood, for example. You know, this panel here. Again, you probably can't see it too well from that camera, but you've got the natural sort of look of the wood coming through, rather than having that white background.
And still, it's protected by the coating, so it's not on top like with UV. Huh?
So it's again into that surface, and the coatings that they use are very, very well applied. I don't know how you would say it, but it's a very fine, even area to give you that.
Yeah.
Print.
Obviously, what you want is a consistent coating, so that you know that your product, the product that you are going to make, with your established workflow, will come out the right way. So you don't want any guesswork. You don't want to do it twice. And if you get another order, repeat order, you want the repeat order to look the same as it did before. So you need a really consistent coating. Also, if you have larger surfaces, you don't want one part to be darker green and another part to be lighter green. No, you want it to be even. So this is where ChromaLuxe and Unisub really make a difference. Another aspect is the white point of their panels. This is really neutral white. A lot of these panels, they will turn yellow after you heat them. Obviously, ChromaLuxe is not the only one making polyester coated panels, but they are definitely the only one with such a high quality, consistent coating. And we are really proud that they are our partner on a global scale. So not just in the UK, not just in Europe, but also in the US.
And that leads us on to, I guess, our key role in this part, which would be the printer. Why, Jeroen, would you go with a TexArt, for example, over another product?
Okay. Take the TexArt. Well, one of the unique things of the TexArt is that it has an 8-color system. No other printer has 8 colors. Plus, we have the 64-inch wide. The 64-inch wide means that you can produce very effectively. You can either produce large items, or if you have a production run, this is an example of coasters, for instance. If you have like an online web store, you could get an order for 100, 200, 250 of these coasters. So you can print them in like 20 minutes, 30 minutes. And if you would have a real large press, you could do 100 coasters in one press. So in like 4 minutes, you would have 100 coasters.
And each one of those images, it could either be a massive production run, in which case they're all the same, or they could all be different. They could all have incremental names or numbers or whatever you want on them.
Sure, if you would personalize them, very often with names, with the same cost to you, you could ask more money from your customer, because it's added value that won't cost you anything, just that you are the lucky one who purchased the Roland RT640.
So in the RT, there's 3 different ink configurations that you can have. You can go for a dual CMYK process, which would normally be for sort of high speed, maybe leaning more towards the textile end of sublimation. Or you would go the 8-color configuration, in which we've got the orange and violet inks, which means that your gamut is massively increased. Now, when you see a print coming out of a a sublimation printer, you'll notice that the print doesn't look very vibrant. Yeah, so if we hold that up, you might be able to see it's not the most vibrant print. And in a second, we're going to press this onto one of these small panels, and hopefully you'll be able to see the colors will really, really pop. And that's one of the benefits. When it looks dull on the paper, with the extra ink configuration that we have, or we've also got a configuration which has fluorescent colors, so fluorescent yellow and pink, which mean that you can create other fluorescent colors as well. You get really, really vibrant colors. Hopefully you can see sort of some of the colors a little bit on the camera there, but just looking at the kind of, they almost look neon when they're, in this configuration here. We don't actually have the neon set up at the moment. That's another interesting panel, because this is we talked a lot about these sort of internal applications. Yeah. That's an external panel.
Actually, this is one that is called the EXT panel, which is meant to be used outdoors, for instance, to cover buildings. So with this, you have a really durable solution to cover buildings with a really high-end, high-quality image.
I mean, and that's, covering buildings would just be one application for it, I guess.
And actually, the people from ChromaLuxe, they certified Roland with their product when we use our RT or XT with our SBL3 inks. So this is something that ChromaLuxe is convinced about the performance.
Perfect. So there's a few parts to this process as we sort of touched on briefly. So obviously there's the printing side of it. So having a printer that's going to give you the clarity of print and the resolution that you need in order to get these high-end prints. There's the material that you're going to need which was either ChromaLuxe or Unisub is what we're talking about today. These rigid materials, which are flat surfaces normally, and on a range of different products. They also come just in flat panels, so you could make your own products from the flat panels, for example. And then another part of the process is the actual sort of transfer process, in which you're going to need a heat press. So if you want to talk about that a little bit, Jeroen, I'm going to prep one of these whilst Jeroen's talking so that we can get this going.
Okay. Another important part of the process is using the right profile. It becomes more important if you have objects that you want to look up from a close distance. But then the profile that you use, so it's the way that the printer is actually printing the colors, like printing the right colors, is very important. So we make sure that with our solution, you will get the right profile to create the desired high quality output. Second is that you need a certain type of transfer paper. So you need a transfer paper that can take a lot of ink, release it easily, because that's what you want. You just want to kind of park the ink on the paper, and then want it to be released as easily as possible. Besides that, if you have a real large aluminum panel, it's a rule of nature. How do you call that?
A rule of thumb.
No, but it will grow a little bigger when you heat it up.
Yes.
It's not a rule of thumb.
Not a rule of thumb. My bad.
I'm sorry. So what you need is a coating on the paper that will stay on the paper, even if the aluminum panel extends a little. So you need a very durable coating. If you don't have that on your paper, you will get little chips, little particles of your paper going off, and it will, I would say it will ruin your image, but it will take some of the perfection off. The last part is the heat press. You need a heat press where you can set the exact parameters, so like temperature, pressure, and time, so that you get the right amount of ink released from the paper in the right way on your ChromaLuxe panel. The one we're showing you, the heat press, is almost perfect, but it will do the trick for this short demo.
Sure, yeah. So what I've just done, just to show you whilst Jeroen was talking there, I took the print that was printed just now on the RT here, one of these prints down the bottom, and I've laid that down flat on the table with the print facing upwards. The print was a mirror image as well to start with because we're going to be transferring it. I've then taken these are ChromaLuxe panels and they've got a protective layer on the top. So I just took off the protective layer, turned that upside down and placed it on top of the print. And we've got some heat-proof tape, the same kind of thing that you might use on sort of eco-solvent heat transfer for holding your print in place as well. And all I've done is just fixed the edges of the print in place so that it's not going to move around.
Yeah, if it would move around, you would get some kind of ghosting, and you don't want that.
So that's the prep done from this part. Now what I'm going to do is we've set our press with specific parameters for this material. So this varies slightly depending on the size of the item, and
the larger the plate is that you're going to use, the more time you will need for it to be well sublimated.
So there's a few different changes, but as part of this solution that we have on offer with the profiles, with the material, with the paper, with the machine, and with the press, all of that information sort of included. There's only a small bit of maybe fluctuations in terms of your environment maybe, but it's kind of set as a default by the material. So we've set this press at the moment at 185 degrees for 4 minutes. So it's a little bit longer than you would be looking at with, say, your traditional heat transfer, for example. And we've got some protective paper, as you would for any heat transfer, that I'm just going to place onto the bed first. And then my metal panel with the print on top sits on top of that next. And then just want to talk through this.
Have a special piece of cloth which is used to absorb and disperse the moisture that is going to be released from the paper. Normally, if you would have like a textile, it will go through the textile, but because this is a solid metal panel, it has no way to go other than up, and we don't want it to wander around on our panel. We want it to be released and away from the panel. So we're going to place this on top.
Perfect, and then I'm just going to put another protective sheet down, not necessary, but nice to have. So that's just going to protect our heat press effectively in case any ink did disperse anywhere. So we've got our press all set up, all laid down. It's quite a high pressure that we've got set on there as well, because we want to really trap the heat and have less movement of air and gases within the press. So put this down.
Again, as a rule of thumb, on an automatic press, I would say use around 5.5 bar. It depends a little on the type of press you have, the size, the number of cylinders that you are using, and the diameter of each cylinder. So it might be a little that you would have to tweak for the perfect result, but as a rule of thumb, it would be around 5.5 bar, which in PSI is 85, 90.
Okay, I'll taking your word on that one. So as we said, those are the sort of main parts of the process. So that's just pressing at the moment. We'll take a look at it when it comes out.
At this moment, we're making money. Huh?
Exactly, yeah, and we could be making a lot of money if we had a bigger press as well. But some of the different applications for this we've already talked through. We said we've got the wood, we've got the sort of little display panels, frames. There's you know, as we said, hundreds of different blank items that you can get, but you can also make your own. And one of the biggest markets for this, traditionally, I guess, is the high-end photographic market. I've been to art exhibitions before and seen large art prints done on rigid aluminium, and they look incredible.
Yeah, because of the really large color gamut again and the strong colors. And the nice thing about art is that you pay a lot more for it than if you would not call it art. So let's all make art. Right?
Sounds good to me, yeah.
Yeah.
So there's another couple of things earlier. So again, you're probably not going to be able to, you won't be able to see how good these look up close on the camera there. But just a note to say, at the moment we're in the Creative Centre here at Roland DG UK, which is in the southwest of England, and anybody's always welcome to come and visit us here to take a look at this or to try their own processes as well to see if this is something that could work for them. Maybe unlike traditional, or well, when I say traditional, other sort of types of sublimation processes, this is a relatively easy process to introduce into your business. You need the printer, obviously. You need the correct inks, and you need the correct paper for that side of the setup.
But yeah, but then it's a standard process.
Yeah. So
it's a really standard process. If you always do it like this and you feed it through like that, then the end result will always be that. And this is also a product that probably your colleagues are not really focusing on. So it's not unique, but there are a lot more UV and eco-solvent printers than there are dye-sub printers for rigid materials. So really another way to make a higher margin or to get the job that somebody else wants because you offer something different.
Definitely.
Yeah.
No, just take it. It looks like we've got another minute before that's going to be finished. And the sizes you can go up to with this. So we talked about some of the smaller ones. Obviously, you can do your little coasters and things, which you can do hundreds of, thousands of, whatever it might be, and you can press a bunch of those at the same time as well, depending on the size of your press. Our press is only, well, relatively small, I guess, but the presses come up to.
Well, the full size sheets are 1 meter 20 by 2 meter 40. So I don't know what it is in inches, but
okay, 8 by 4 foot boards. You know, your sort of standard construction size board. Yes. So that was just a question you guys probably couldn't hear. I've heard that come in from the webinar. They're asking if they get supplied times and temperatures.
Yes, they do. ChromaLuxe does that because you have big variation in panels and sizes, and they have done the testing with our machines, and they have a list that they can supply or that we could supply. Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah. So it looks like they've done all the hard work.
And we did it together. Huh?
We did
it together. So
the hard work has been done. Yeah.
There are Roland printers in their lab, and we are in frequent contact, let's say on a weekly basis. So what are you wearing now? just for fun. Oh, yep. Yeah. Another question coming. We don't know exactly which press you're referring to there. Sorry, the question has just come in asking if somebody can use their existing heat press with this solution. It depends, doesn't it? You know, it will work, but it's how well it will work. Yeah. If it is like a manual press, then it's really hard to get the exact settings right for the pressure. Also, it's very hard to know if the pressure today is the same pressure as the pressure tomorrow. Also, there is the risk. Many presses, they are warmer in the center and colder on the outside. So if you have, again, an even color, then it would be darker or more intense in the middle and weaker going out. So you will get a really strange reverse halo effect or halo effect. And this is something that you do not want. If you have this press, and it happens to be a good, solid, stable press, yes, maybe you can use it. You would just have to figure out the right settings for you in terms of temperature, time, and pressure.
So
we're not ruling it out.
Yeah.
We're advising a different type of press, but we're not ruling it out.
So it would work, but it's just how well it will work. And obviously, depending on the level of the, I mean, these products are pretty high-end products. You know, the finish looks incredible. They're very durable. You know, there's all these benefits to it. But if you shortcut a little bit on one of the processes, then the end product might not look as good. And obviously, especially for things like the art prints, it needs to look, you know, incredible.
And if you say to your customer that you are selling a ChromaLuxe product, he is willing to pay more for it. So you have to make sure that it's at least very good.
So the panels come in that size, and the presses can be as big to match.
Yeah. So there are really big presses which can handle these 1 meter 20 by 2 meter 40 panels. Yeah.
So this print's just finished. We'll take this out and take a look. Those because it is pretty hot. Obviously it's metal, so it's absorbed a lot of that heat. So just want to protect myself a little bit. And as you can see on the paper, a lot of the ink has been released out of the paper because it's been transferred into the material. So that's what the paper now looks like. And the actual panel is all finished. And as I said, you might not be able to see that as well on the camera there. But if we look at that compared to a little piece of the, I mean, this was the original print. There's a little piece of that left, and this is the actual press afterwards. So you can see how well the colors sort of transfer and really pop afterwards.
I would say it's impressive.
Yeah, well done. So, and that's just a small panel that we were doing just to show the process. There's obviously a lot of other ones, and it looks like we've just got another question coming in. Oh, we can shout a little bit louder, I think. I don't know if I can turn it up anymore. There's not actually a volume switch. Brilliant. So, does anybody have any further questions at the moment? Whilst we're sort of having a little bit of a breakdown here, we've taken a look at the process. We showed the pressing side of it. We've talked through the solution, so having the printer, the different parts of the materials that you would need in order to get set up, and how to get into this. All you need is the materials to get into this. There's no big learning curve really. Obviously, you need some sort of high-end images if you're going to be doing the high-end work. If you did have an existing setup that was slightly lower, then it will still work, but it's just that you're not going to get as well. You might be able to with a little bit of tweaking. Roland and ChromaLuxe have worked together to create the profiles that work best with this, and to give you things like the timings and the settings that you would need to use.
Yeah, true.
Anything more from you, Jeroen?
No, I think it's an incredible product that will make you stand out from your competitors.
No, definitely.
And that's what you want. And you can make a good margin on it.
Yeah, which is what it's all about. Yeah. If there's any more questions, I think we've pretty much given a good overview of this. If you do have any more technical questions, if you wanted to try and see if this solution works for you, if you wanted to come and take a look at some of these samples a little bit closer up, just get in touch with us here. You can get in touch with myself, with the Roland DG UK team, just by finding the offices. Go to www.rolanddg.co.uk, and you can email us through the contact page on there. A copy of this webinar, this has all been recorded, by the way, so a copy of this will be available online shortly afterwards. Just need to tweak some bits and bobs and maybe up the volume a bit, and then we'll pop that up online so you'll be able to watch it afterwards. But is there any more questions from you guys? Just checking with Ollie there, who's running the show at the back there. It doesn't sound like anybody's got any questions, which means we must have done a good job and covered everything, I think. Looks like some people might be typing, but yeah, I think that's a pretty good overview. And as I said, if you want any more information, just get in touch. Thanks to Jeroen for joining us today to sort of present this. I think it's exciting that we've got this great relationship, and that these products are sort of working their way into our audience.
Yeah, it's a really big thing that ChromaLuxe is good partner for them and that they are backing up all the products that we make with their products. So
Perfect.
yeah, a good team, ChromaLuxe, world-leading brand, Roland, world-leading brand, makes a perfect team.
Nice one. All right, well, we'll hang on just for a couple of minutes, but we'll probably just shut off the mics for a minute. And if you do have any questions, you can keep typing those and we'll answer them. If not, thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.